Captain Maya Chan pressed her face against the reinforced viewport of the salvage vessel Lucky Strike, watching as the massive form slowly rotated in the emptiness ahead. After 3 decades of pulling scrap from dead ships and mining forgotten asteroids, she thought she'd seen everything the void had to offer. This changed everything. "Jesus Christ," whispered her engineer, Torres, from behind her. "That thing's got to be 12 kilometers long." The object defied classification. It resembled no ship design in any database part machine. Part something. Disturbingly organic. Ribbed sections that looked like exposed vertebrae connected pod-like chambers, while what appeared to be neural networks pulsed with faint bioluminescence beneath translucent skin like armor plating. It drifted without power signatures, without heat, apparently lifeless. "Communications Officer Yuki," Maya called over her shoulder. "Any signals? Identification beacons?" Yuki Tanaka adjusted her headset, frowning at her console. "Nothing on." "Standard frequencies, Captain. But—" She paused, tilting her head. "There's something on the old emergency channels. Fragments. Sounds almost like—" A burst of static filled the bridge, followed by a voice speaking clear, unaccented English. "Remember the taste of coffee in the morning? The way Sarah laughed?" When the transmission cut to white noise, Maya's blood chilled. No human vessel had traveled this far into the outer rim territories. They were 8 months from the nearest colony, following rumors of a treasure fleet lost during the resource wars. "Run a full spectrum analysis," she ordered, "and prep the boarding pods. Whatever that thing is, someone built it, and if they—" Spoke English. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the team's xenobiologist and reluctant medic, emerged from her research station. A former military scientist who'd seen too much during the corporate conflicts. She'd joined the salvage crew seeking quiet work. Among the stars. "Captain, I'm reading massive bioelectric activity from that object. It's not dead. It's in some kind of stasis." Another transmission crackled through. "Told my wife I'd be home for Christmas. But the project timeline keeps extending and—" Static consumed the rest. Torres ran a hand through his graying hair. "That's a human voice, Captain. No synthetic modulation, no translation artifacts." "Which is impossible," Maya said, studying the readings on her tablet. "Unless someone beat us out here by centuries." The 4th member of their crew, Marcus Webber, former military demolitions expert turned salvage specialist, secured his gear with practiced efficiency. His weathered face showed no emotion, but Maya caught him glancing repeatedly at the weapon through the viewport. In 5 years of working together, she'd learned to read his tells. He was afraid. "What do you think, Webb?" she asked. He was quiet for a long moment, watching the massive form slowly tumble in the starlight. "I think we should be very careful about waking it up." As if responding to his words, the entire structure pulsed once with soft light, and the transmission suddenly became a chorus dozens of voices overlapping in English, speaking fragments of conversations, military protocols, and personal messages that echoed through the void like ghosts crying out from a digital purgatory. Asterisk. The boarding pod remora detached from the Lucky Strike with a gentle hiss of compressed air. Maya piloted manually, keeping their approach vector steady as they drew closer to what Torres had dubbed the Leviathan. Through the pod's reinforced canopy, the massive biomechanical structure loomed like a sleeping god. Docking collar identified. Webb reported from his position at the tactical station. "Looks standard, but the metal's some kind of composite I've never seen. Organic traces in the substrate." Dr. Vasquez monitored the atmospheric readings. Whatever built this used human-compatible life support systems. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, Earth normal pressure. But the temperature's 40 degrees below, freezing throughout. The structure. As they approached what appeared to be an airlock, the transmissions grew stronger. Yuki's equipment picked up layered conversations that seemed to flow like a river of human consciousness. Remember the smell of rain on concrete after summer heat? Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule, but the neural integration, PRO20COLs. My daughter took her first steps yesterday, and I missed it because of this damned. Maya felt her hands trembling as she guided the pod into the docking collar. The airlock cycled automatically, suggesting some level of automated. Systems still functioned. When the indicator lights shifted to green, she turned to her team. Standard salvage protocols. Stay together, constant communication, and nobody touches anything that looks important until Vasquez gives clearance. The airlock opened onto a corridor that stretched beyond their flashlight beams. The walls pulsed with a slow, rhythmic beat like a heartbeat made of light. Bioluminescent veins ran along the ceiling, providing minimal illumination that cast everything in an eerie blue-green glow. Their footsteps echoed strangely, as if the sound was being processed and analyzed by unseen systems. Web scanner detected. Massive neural networks threading through the walls, more complex than any AI system in human space. "This isn't a ship," Vasquez whispered, running her gloved hand along a wall section that felt warm despite the freezing temperature. "It's more like the inside of a nervous system." They followed the main corridor deeper into the structure, passing chambers filled with what looked like suspended animation pods. Thousands of them stretching into the darkness. But the pods were empty, or rather, they had never been designed to hold physical bodies. "Captain," Yuki called out, her voice tight with concern. "The transmissions are getting stronger and more focused." She adjusted her equipment, isolating individual signals. "Listen to this." A clear voice emerged from the static. "Dr. Elena Vasquez, born July 15th, 2387. Graduated xenobiology from New Geneva University. Served as LT Colonel in the 47th Medical Corps during the corporate conflicts." Vasquez stumbled backward. "That's impossible." "How could it know?" Marcus Webb, another voice continued. "Demolition specialist. Lost his unit on Kepler 442b when corporate forces used banned chemical weapons. Still carries shrapnel in his left shoulder." Webb's hand instinctively went to his shoulder, his face pale in the blue light. Maya felt ice form in her stomach as a third voice spoke directly to her. "Captain Maya Chun inherited the Lucky Strike from her father after he died in a salvage accident near the Proxima Gate. Drinks coffee black because she can't afford milk substitutes. It's reading our minds." Torres breathed. "No," Vasquez said, her scientific training overriding her fear. "It's accessing our personal data somehow. Records, files, everything we've ever done digitally." She looked around at the pulsing walls. "This entire structure is one massive neural network, and it's been listening to our communications since we arrived." Asterisk deeper within the Leviathan, the team discovered the control center, or what passed for one. Instead of traditional consoles and displays, organic interfaces grew from the floor and walls like technological coral. Tendrils of biocable writhed, slowly in the air, seeking connection with systems that existed beyond physical reality. "These readings are off the charts," Vasquez reported, her scanner beeping frantically. "The neural activity is increasing exponentially. Whatever we did by coming here, we've triggered something. The transmissions were no longer fragments. Complete. Conversations played through the ship's communication systems, each one crystal clear and heartbreakingly human. A young woman's voice. "I volunteered because someone has to. Earth needs protectors who can think at the speed of light, who can process threats before they reach our system. If becoming part of this project means my children have a future, then it's worth it. An older man, the integration process will merge our consciousness with the ship's bioneural networks. We'll retain our memories, our personalities, but our bodies, There's no coming back from this. We're trading our humanity for the power to defend it. A child, barely adolescent. Mom says I'm special, that my neural compatibility scores are higher than anyone's ever seen. She cries when she thinks I'm not looking. I don't understand why saving Earth means I can't go home. Maya found herself crying inside her helmet. These weren't random transmissions, they were final messages. Last thoughts. The digital ghosts of people who had sacrificed everything for a cause they believed in. Project Prometheus, Webb said quietly. Military designation for deep space. Defense initiatives. I've heard rumors, but this. He gestured at the living walls around them. This is beyond anything in the classified files. Torres was studying the bio-interfaces, his engineer's mind trying to comprehend the technology. It's not just recording consciousness, it's preserving it. Every person who volunteered for this project became part of the ship's operating system. Their minds are the computer. Suddenly, the entire structure shuddered. The bioluminescent veins brightened, and the heartbeat rhythm accelerated. Throughout the ship, a sound began not mechanical, but organic, like something massive drawing its first breath in centuries. Captain, Yuki's voice was barely a whisper. Long-range sensors are detecting movement. Something's coming toward us from deep space. Multiple contacts, moving faster than anything in our databases. The transmissions suddenly synchronized, thousands of voices speaking in unison. They return. The devourers come again. We must wake. We must remember our purpose. Maya felt the ship's consciousness focusing on them like the attention of a sleeping giant. When it spoke again, it was with the collective voice of an entire civilization's. Worth of human minds. We are the guardian. We are the sacrifice Earth made to survive. For 800 years we have slept, dreaming of the lives we can never live again. But our vigil is not ended. The enemy approaches, and we must choose eternal rest or one final battle to protect those we can no longer embrace. The walls around them began to change, revealing vast chambers filled with weapon systems that defied comprehension technologies born from human ingenuity merged with something far older and more terrible. You must leave, the Guardian said, its voice now distinctly addressing Maya. Return to human space, warn them. We cannot protect you from what we must become. The Guardian's consciousness enveloped them like a living web of memory and pain. As it awakened further, the individual voices became clearer, more distinct, each one a person who had once lived, loved, and dreamed of seeing Earth again. Doctor. Sarah Chun, no relation to Maya, despite the shared surname, had been a brilliant neurobiologist who'd helped design the integration protocols. Her voice emerged from the collective. We didn't understand the cost. The project briefings talked about heroic sacrifice, but they never explained that we would remain conscious, aware, for centuries, feeling every moment pass without being, able to touch, to breathe, to truly live. Maya's hands shook as she recorded everything. This wasn't just first contact with alien technology. This was discovering the most horrific chapter in human history, a chapter that had been classified. And buried. Webb was studying tactical displays that materialized in the air around them, showing the approaching enemy. The contacts moved in impossible patterns. Their ships, if they were ships, defined physics as understood by human science. The devourers, the Guardian explained through 1,000 voices. They came to Earth 8 centuries ago, consuming. Worlds not for resources, but for the life force itself. They feed on consciousness, on the spark that makes living beings more than mere matter. Vasquez's medical scanner was detecting bioneural patterns throughout the ship that made her stomach turn. The human minds aren't just preserved, she whispered. They're being used as processing nodes. Every thought, every memory, every emotion is contributing to the ship's computational power. A new voice, younger and filled with aching sadness. I was 17 when I volunteered. I wanted to be a dancer. I still dream about dancing, but I have no body to move, no stage to grace. We all dream of the lives we'll never live, and those dreams power the systems that keep humanity safe. Torres was interfacing with the bio-neural networks, his engineer's training allowing him to comprehend the ship's design. It's incredible. And horrible. They've created a fusion of human consciousness and technology that can process information at quantum speeds. But the human minds retain their emotional capacity, their ability to suffer. The Guardian's attention turned to the approaching threat. Through the ship's sensors, they could perceive the Devourer's entities of pure hunger that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Their approach sent ripples through reality itself. We fought them before, the collective voice continued. A fleet of 12 Guardian ships, each carrying the minds of 50,000 volunteers. We drove them back, but the cost... A pause filled with centuries of grief. 11 ships were consumed. We alone escaped, carrying the memories of all who were lost. Maya realized the magnitude of what they'd discovered. 600,000 human minds. An entire generation sacrificed to create living weapons. Not weapons, the Guardian corrected gently. Guardians. We chose this fate to protect what we could no longer be part of. But now, after 8 centuries of dreaming, we must choose again. The Devourers return in greater numbers. We can fight them, but victory would require us to become something even more terrible than what we already are. Yuki's sensors showed the enemy was only hours away. Captain, we need to leave, now. But the Guardian's consciousness held them gently in place. You represent the humanity we died to protect. Help us decide. Should we embrace eternal sleep and let fate determine the outcome? Or should we awaken fully, knowing that victory would transform us into something that would terrify the very people we seek to save? Asterisk, the command center transformed. Around them as the Guardian's full consciousness awakened. What had been biomechanical interfaces became something far more profound, a direct neural link to 600,000 human minds, each one desperately clinging to memories of Earth, of families, of simple human joys they would never experience. Again, Maya felt their collective attention like sunlight through a magnifying glass. She could sense their individual personalities. Dr. Kim Reeves, who had given up her wedding day to join the project. Lieutenant Marcus Torres, no relation to their engineer, who had volunteered after watching his home colony burn. Sarah Kim, age 16, who had scored impossibly high on neural compatibility tests, and whose mother had signed the consent forms while sobbing. Show them, the Guardian said, and suddenly Maya's team could see through the ship's sensors. The Devourers filled the void between stars, not ships, but living geometries that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions, where physics bent to accommodate their hunger. They moved like predators that had scented prey, their approach sending gravitational waves that made nearby asteroids crack and crumble. We've monitored human space for 800 years, the Guardian explained. Watched your colonies spread, your technology advance, your children grow up free because of our sacrifice. Earth has 200 billion souls now. The outer colonies hold another 100 billion. All of them unknowing inheritors of our gift. Webb was studying the tactical. Projections. How many enemy contacts? 17 primary entities. Each one capable of consuming an entire star system. But they are more vulnerable now than before. They've grown complacent, feeding on empty worlds. They don't expect resistance. Torres interfaced deeper with the ship's systems, his consciousness briefly touching the vast network of human minds. He jerked back, gasping. My God, they're all still there. Every personality, every memory. It's like a city of ghosts powering a machine. Doctor, Vasquez was analyzing the bioneural architecture. The integration is perfect. Too perfect. They've maintained their humanity while gaining quantum processing capabilities. But the psychological stress of existing in this state for centuries ... She looked up at Maya. Captain, they're suffering. Every moment of existence is a form of conscious torture. A voice emerged from the collective young female, heartbreakingly clear. I dream about my wedding dress. I was supposed to marry David Chun in the spring. I wonder if he waited for me, or if he found someone else. I hope he found someone else. I hope he had children and grandchildren, and died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by love. Maya's throat tightened. What happens if you fight them again? We would need to merge our consciousness more completely, the Guardian replied. Abandon the last vestiges of individual identity to become a perfect weapon. We would win. The Devourers cannot stand against humanity's capacity for sacrifice. But afterward, we would no longer be human minds trapped in a machine. We would be something else entirely. And if you don't fight, then Earth falls. The colonies fall. Humanity becomes food for entities that exist to consume consciousness itself. Everything we sacrificed for becomes meaningless. The enemy was only 2 hours away. Through the ship's quantum sensors, they could already feel the Devourers. Hunger pressing against reality. Yuk. I was crying inside her helmet. There has to be another way. Some option that doesn't require more sacrifice. There is one, the Guardian said quietly. You could stay. Join with us willingly. 4 more minds wouldn't significantly increase our combat effectiveness, but we've been alone for so long. The sound of living voices, the presence of people who still breathe and dream and hope. It would give us strength to fight while retaining something of who we once were. Maya looked at her team. Webb's military training warred with his humanity. Torres was staring at the bioneural interfaces with the expression of an engineer seeing an impossible problem. Vasquez had her hand pressed against one of the pulsing walls, her medical instincts telling her these minds were in agony. Yuki was monitoring the approaching darkness that would consume everything they'd ever loved. We can't ask you to choose, Maya said finally. But if you're going to fight, if you're going to become something terrible to save something beautiful, then you shouldn't have to do it alone.